At the 2026 AASHTO Washington briefing, transportation leaders gathered in Washington, D.C. to examine one of the most persistent challenges facing the freight industry: truck parking. As freight demand continues to grow alongside the rapid expansion of warehousing and distribution networks, the shortage of safe, reliable parking has become both a safety concern and an operational constraint nationwide. To explore solutions, AASHTO convened a knowledge session titled Collaborating with the Private Sector to Address Truck Parking Needs, presented by Amazon. Moderated by John Hartland, Amazon's Director of North America Surface Transportation, the session brought together state transportation leaders to share how public agencies are working alongside private partners to address this complex and urgent issue.
I was in the room 10 years ago when we were architecting this, and we sat there and we had a lively debate, and it was only 10 years ago, which seems dramatic to me, that we were debating, would the trucking community embrace mobile technology? Would they embrace something other than the big in-cab box that many of them had at the time? And I was on the side of they absolutely will, but it's got to start with the driver and work backwards. It has to start with how does it provide safety and information to the driver in a way that's meaningful to their work experience. How does that apply to parking? Back then, it was basic information, helping the drivers get in and out, accomplish their loads. But if you fast forward to what we do today and what many in the industry do today, it's app-based technology, it's routing, it's safe commercial navigation. That's been the journey we're on. It's a journey, not a destination. And so that's what a lot of us are talking about today, how we can leverage something like public-private partnerships, or just take the information that the states are already kind of producing and working on, and how we can serve that up.
Mike Carroll, Secretary of the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, described how his state, like many across the country, is experiencing a rapid increase in truck traffic driven by continued growth of warehousing, distribution, and increasing demand for fast, reliable delivery.
We took down the gates that controlled access to the weigh stations along the interstates in Pennsylvania and made those weigh stations available for truck parking. We allowed for truck parking on interstate on-ramps in certain areas where it made sense. We utilized PennDOT property that was situated in areas that were available for immediate access, and so we were able to scatter about these 1,000 truck spots in about 250 locations across the state.
Erica Hawkins, Assistant Director, Business and Human Resources for the Ohio Department of Transportation, highlighted a more data-driven approach to tackling the truck parking shortage. Building off a statewide freight plan, Ohio conducted a comprehensive truck parking study to better understand where capacity existed and where critical gaps remained.
We used that as a starting place for some conversations. We had some projects going on at the time that we started off to convert abandoned weigh stations that the patrol was no longer utilizing into truck parking lots. The ramps were there, the infrastructure was there, we just had to pave it over and stripe it. And we were able to add 140 spots through that initiative throughout the state. We also were working on a project to update 36 of our rest areas across the state. Part of that work included looking at every single location to determine, can we add more truck parking spaces here? And we got about another 250 or so out of that initiative. But in 2024, we decided we wanted to start looking for other opportunities. The cash to do this was something that we were trying to look for, so we started looking at P3s. We completed a study in Ohio recently, and we're projecting a 40% increase in truck traffic over the next 30 years. And so we know it's something that we need to take care of quickly.
Ray Morvick, Deputy Chief Engineer for the Maryland Department of Transportation, offered a different perspective, one shaped by the realities of managing a highly interconnected freight network under sudden disruption.
When we lost the Francis Scott Key Bridge, the effect to our network just changed our demand. Where do we have parking? Where can we put emergency parking? That bridge is a key service to the Port of Baltimore, to Port America, to Trade Point Atlantic, really all fed through that corridor to get to the network. And now we're constrained where that also is a key route for our hazardous material haulers. So they're now forced and have to be using the west side of our beltway. They can't go through the I-95 and 895 tunnels. So that just changed our whole dynamic, at least for the short term, and we're working as quickly as possible to get that bridge replaced. But at least in the short term, you know, we've had many conversations with New Jersey DOT, with Pennsylvania DOT, with Virginia, and others, because we've now put constraints into their networks because trucks are parking in those locations because of the delay they're hitting in the Baltimore region during this time. So really trying to have that partnership and working with our federal partners as well on that effort and the communication that's going on what we can do there.
The session's final panelist, Darius Pakbaz, Director of the Division of Transportation Development for the Colorado Department of Transportation, discussed how geography and weather introduce a different set of challenges when it comes to truck parking.
So the truck parking playbook, when we had developed this guide, what it's designed to do is identify what are the key challenges that we have within the state in terms of truck parking and the capacity problem. Highlight strategies that the state can take to develop partnerships, both with our local partners and our private industry partners, and then educate our local governments on what options there are available if they want to look at solutions for this, and then create a path to allow those partnerships to come together.
As this discussion highlighted, no single solution will solve the truck parking shortage. Progress will depend on continued collaboration between states, local governments, and private sector partners, working together to meet both immediate and long-term needs. To learn more about how state DOTs are addressing truck parking and other critical transportation challenges, visit transportation.org.